In the past, parents were told to wait and see when their child showed the symptoms of autism. We now know that that is the worst thing you can do for your child. Emma shares her family's story with us about her son, who had to wait years for access to therapy services, and the effects that delay had on him and their family.
My name is Emma. I have a son named Nicholas. He's 9 years old. He was first diagnosed with autism at 3 years old. So he was meeting most of his milestones until around 9 months old. I started noticing, and mostly because of him not being, I would say, verbal. He was not making very many sounds. So I took him to the pediatrician, and at that time, the pediatrician did mention to me, some things that we needed to watch for, and one of those things was autism. And then also at, I guess, 12 months, he was not pulling himself up to walk. He was crawling, still nonverbal. So we were living in Tennessee, and it was basically right before we were leaving to move to Florida. I had gone to the pediatrician again. At this point, he was 14 months old. And the pediatrician was very concerned with him being nonverbal. He wrote a prescription for us to go to a therapy center that was basically for speech therapy. They did an evaluation on him. Again, we were leaving, so that kind of all ended. We didn't really get anywhere with that. Moved to Florida. Once we got to Florida, I found out about programs here. Government programs for young children. So I contacted them. They came to our home and evaluated him. They approved him for 2 therapies. One was speech and one was physical. Because at this point, he was 17 months old at this point, and he was still not talking, not making very many sounds, wasn't walking. It took a couple of months for them to finally get us into a program. And at that point, it was right before his 2nd birthday. So we had 2 sessions of physical therapy, and he finally started walking a week before his 2nd birthday. As far as talking, we didn't really get anywhere with the speech therapy, and we did that for 1 year, and then he aged out of the program. So after he aged out of the program, there was nothing else that we could do because we could not afford to pay for the therapy for him, and we had insurance coverage that we paid for ourselves, not through a company, and they didn't cover any therapies at all, no matter the diagnosis. So basically, there was no therapy from that point on until this year. We were able to change to a different insurance that does have therapy, and he started ABA therapy at 8.5 years old. And that's where we are right now, and he's made tremendous progress in just 4 months. Before he started the treatment, he did have some words. He's able to say one word, not 2 together, or a sentence. Once he started the ABA therapy, he is now able to, I would say, recite a sentence. He's able to ask, can I have iPad, please? Can I have cheese, please? So he's able to actually request reciting pretty much that one sentence. And then he also has lots of words now that he could never even say before or anything. So he's able to request and ask for things. He can count to 100. I was just told the other day that he counted completely on his own to 100. He's just made tremendous progress. And like I said, I guess we're about 4.5, 5 months into ABA, and he's like a different child. His behavior, His behavior was off the charts. He's started with them, and he's able to attend in a classroom. He's able to sit at the table. His behavior's not getting in the way of him learning. It's been amazing. Nicholas still does not eat a normal diet. He is funny about food. He really only has basically 3 preferred items that he will eat, and that's every single day, every meal of the day. There's only 2 things that he will drink. He will only drink out of a certain container. He still does not use utensils. That's something that, we're going to have to start working on, but the fact that he doesn't really eat foods that require utensils is, kind of a problem there. The only foods that Nicholas will eat at this point is a cheese that is pre-sliced. It's one brand and that's it. He will not try any other brand. There's one cookie that he will eat. He will not even try another cookie. He will not eat a donut. He will not eat cake. He will not eat anything that you would think that a normal child would eat. Ice cream, nope, won't even try it. He will eat certain foods only in certain places. So, like I can get him to actually eat a taco from Taco Bell, but only when he's riding in the back seat of the car. He will not eat it anywhere else. So when Nicholas was a little younger, I had a really hard time with brushing his teeth. Of course, he didn't like it, doesn't like the flavor of toothpaste. So up until, I'd say 2 years ago, I was still using the gum brush that you would use for a baby's gums. It was the only thing he would allow in his mouth. I got bit quite a bit, but that's the only way I could brush his teeth. So we have slowly worked up to brushing his teeth with an actual toothbrush. His pediatric dentist had told me about an unflavored toothpaste that we order now, and that he still doesn't necessarily like the toothpaste in his mouth, but it doesn't have flavor, so that seems to work for him. Strong flavors he's not a fan of, for sure, if you can even get that in his mouth. And that is another thing that ABA therapy has started actually working on with me as well. They're using for part of their session when they come to the house, they will use the toothbrush and another instrument, so that we're slowly working up to actually being able to go to the dentist. It was very difficult to motivate Nicholas to do things because his preferred item was actually his mom's attention, my attention. So that was really difficult, especially when he was at school. They had a hard time getting him to work for things since he doesn't have preferred food items. Like I said, you can't get him to do anything for a cookie or a candy bar or any kind of treat because he's not interested in food. So yes, it was mostly wanting my attention was the way that we would get him to do things. He really enjoys for me to sing songs to him. And to just interact with him. So I was actually the one that we would say, okay, no, mommy's not going to sing until you do, whatever it is. And then whatever the song is that he wanted me to sing, then I would do that for him as soon as he started doing what we were asking him to do. So I had a daughter who was epileptic, and she died at 7 years old before Nicholas was born. So yes, I had a child, so yes, I knew what he should be doing. And I knew that, especially with him not being very verbal, and he did seem, when he was an infant, he didn't seem to really like to cuddle too much. I remember being in tears over that, feeling like my child didn't love me, and it was very upsetting. He started being loving, and he's very loving and affectionate to this day. But yes, it was I feel like my determination of, I didn't accept that he didn't like that. So I kept on, and I would say around 9 months old is when he started becoming loving towards me and enjoyed the cuddles and the hugs. But again, he was nonverbal at that time, and I knew something was not right. And so I had heard about autism, so I actually had looked into it, so I was not surprised when the pediatrician mentioned it. It was very upsetting because, of course, I didn't want that for him, but that's that's what we have. And he's precious, and I really can't even imagine him any other way.